we've actually got an episode that I've constructed myself. I'm going to host it, and you two are going to answer. It's actually for both of you, but it's all about what's the secrets to basically the 9-10 partnership. Obviously, you're great mates off the field, and on the field, you had a brilliant contribution, and it's just all around. I think the episode all around basis of like that and what makes a good partnership. So take it away.
What makes a good partnership? Right. Well, let's start, George. First of all, you need to have probably an understanding of how you both see the game, and how you want to play the game. You then got to understand each other's strengths, and then how do I complement George's strengths in the way that he wants to play the game, and how does George complement mine? And then it's like a lot of repetition and chatting and talking things through and getting things wrong to then get it right. So that's kind of like the start off with the relationship. And then on the back of that, you then just get more and more into like, you just start to know each other. And, you know, it came to the back end of our career where George didn't need to say anything to me. I knew if he needed like a ball behind the forwards or in between a pod of forwards, like to him on the out, like it becomes a total like synergy, really. Isn't it? It just I knew what he wanted, and he knew that I could provide him with that, and vice versa. He knew where probably anticipated what I was about to do next. Yeah,
no, I'd agree. I think a lot of training together, a lot of playing together, a lot of conversations, understanding each other's games, understanding the way you want to play the game as a team. But like Lenny said, I think by the end of it, it was. We almost didn't really have to talk to each other that much. We had this like deep understanding where I knew what Lenny would be doing at a certain point and potentially what he was going to do next. I think it'd be the same for me as well. And it wouldn't even have to talk to each other that much. It'd just be a bit of like eye contact or hand up in the air, and I know I'd get the ball in my hands, for example. So, but yeah, I think. Obviously, like we played together loads, haven't we, Len? But our mindset and mentality of the game is very similar, which I think put us off to a good start because we were very attack-minded. We wanted to cause problems when we had the ball. We understand that we had to manage the game, and what the team needed at the right time was important. But at the forefront of our mind, we were gonna go at the opposition. That really set us off in a good stead, I think.
It did. Like, I'll give you some examples. So I knew that, for instance, if we were attacking the 22 and we were going the same way and we had forwards around, one of my favourite balls, I used to love like threading it between the forwards to George on a slight out, who then would like tip it or go himself, whatever, because I knew that was such a good way of cutting out a load of defenders. Teams don't expect it, and it's a tough like sort of pass, sort of like tunnel to get through. But like we knew we got so much out of the back of it. Yeah. And that was an example where that was just through eye contact. Like it wasn't a call, like it would happen. Yeah. Equally, I knew that George, like if we got a bend on an edge, we wanted to get to the middle of the field as quickly as possible. So if we take the New Zealand game, 2019 final, like just, if you watch the first try leading up to Manus, like a lot of that is just playing and the ball's moving and we hit the middle, don't we? Then Ant goes down the edge and I'm just playing you, get down to the edge. We then get to the middle of the pitch really quickly because I'm getting the ball to your hands. And like, we just knew kind of like, okay, we've got momentum on the edge. Like we'd have that arrowhead, like we spoke about loads in the pod, but we'd whip it behind that, get to you because we want to get to the middle really quickly. Yeah. And like, so it was just that understanding of that we were on the same page. Yeah. And like, don't ever mistake that we didn't like have high standards or like it was always, that it was always right. And like, do you know what I mean? We didn't have like, you know, give me the ball, Lenny, or you missed it there. Like, I need that ball. Or, you know, I remember having a conversation for that semi-final, actually, George. And I was saying to you, I was like, mate, next time we're 22, like go for a drop goal. Yeah. Like we need to build another score against New Zealand. We were in the semi-final. And you're going, no, mate, I feel like we've got them. Like we're 2 phases away from absolutely breaking them. And again, it's like, but you trust each other. But I think it's also listeners to understand that you still debate things. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not all like...
We had disagreements, didn't we?
Yeah.
Demanding of each other.
Did you take a drop goal shot there?
Did I? Yeah, you can imagine that. George, right?
George, take it, George. No, right, I'm not. All right, then.
If you're not going to take it, you go 9. I'll sit in the boot. No. But like, I'm just thinking examples off the top of my head where because people just assume that maybe it's... Because we do have a great relationships. a great relationship. But equally, it's all through like when you're on the pitch and throughout the week, it's like demand and a high level of like, this is what I expect. And if I'm not giving him that, like, he's got to let me know. And you're going to let me know in the right way.
Yeah.
And similar.
Right. So reverse it back to like, when did you should like first meet? Then first, like, because George, your dad, Mike, obviously coached England, so you're in sort of in and around, been around rugby, but like in and around the England setup, so you probably might have met.
Would you have been playing for England before I came to Leicester? Or it was a similar time,
It was a very similar time, mate. So my first sort of memories of meeting George was obviously at Leicester, really. And then we went on a pre-season camp to Breathe. Went to pre-season camp in Breathe, and I think we roomed together, didn't we?
Yeah.
And that's where we sort of got to
So
know
how
each
would you
other.
have been then?
I would have been.
I was 16.
Yeah, about 16. That's when I didn't train. Did we mention it on the pod? I don't know if we mentioned.
Yeah, you did. When you smashed the drinks down.
When I smashed the drinks and did that. Yeah, fucking brilliant. Gold cockers. Get after that. I think that's where George. Yeah.
I remember leaving school. I had a choice to make rugby league or rugby union, Leicester or Bradford at the time. Went to Leicester. I remember coming down. I was quite nervous, apprehensive. Obviously, coming to Leicester, there's a lot of big characters, personalities, very successful team. Walking in as a young kid, but I always remember Lenny coming up to me. He was one of the first to come up to me, introduce himself, put his arm around me. I was like, like that had a big impact on me as a young kid, definitely, because as a senior player, a player who was breaking into the England team at the time, and the way he was playing for Leicester, to just a bit of time just to acknowledge me, I suppose. Yeah, I'll never forget that. That was huge. So, and then from there, obviously, like 9s and 10s, we had Floody at the time, didn't we? And the other 9s, Jimmy Grindle, Jez, all them. Like, you spend a lot of time together and you talk. But from there on in, really, we just hit it off, didn't we? It was brilliant.
We did, yeah. And I remember, like, even like certain games, we played Sarries, didn't we, in the semi-final?
Yeah.
And you started, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can you remember? And what you'd have only been like 19, 18?
Yeah, it was. Floody got injured the week before.
Yeah.
That's Quins.
Were you
Yeah,
18? 19?
19, yeah.
Yeah. And, started that, and like everyone knew, like, players know, don't they? They're like even at Sale now, I'm sure there's a youngster coming through, which there's enough noise that kind of go, okay, he's meant to be really promising coming through. Yeah. And like Leicester's the same, you have youngsters that can go, okay, he's probably the one that's potentially, and then you have other guys that arrive and you go, okay, he's the one that's meant it's going to be like mega. And that was George. So we knew, like, a lot of us already knew that he would deem for great things. And you think, like, at 19 he played in that semi-final, and I remember that week, didn't we? We sat down. I remember it was in Costa, didn't we?
Yeah,
we sat down the whole game plan, like, right, this is the game plan. Like, how do we do it? How are we going to be able to? Because we were both young at the time, like, win this game basically. Yeah. And we went for everything. So, like, again, it's like preparation. It's all these things. It's like things that I think people sometimes assume, honestly, that you just sort of train during the week and you go out on the Saturday and it kind of just happens. It doesn't happen without so much work behind the scenes.
Sorry. Do you think that because you're 9 and 10, you've realised obviously you get on, but then you've also worked on that relationship to take you further? You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes you get on with people, but like, do you reckon you've worked on the friendship and relationship? Obviously you worked on the field, I'd say, and the fact that I need this, Len, I need that, don't do this, don't do that. But you know what I mean? Do you reckon, or if you just sort of, or do you reckon it's just come naturally? You've just enjoyed each other's like presence and you got on, so it's just gone, or do you reckon you actually put the effort in to go, we need to be tight?
No, I think we'd have always got on like we would. That's what my gut instinct said. I do think us playing together in them pivotal roles as probably maximised it or accelerated, because like a 9 and 10 is I see them as they're not like isolated positions. It's a combination thing. Like, we can't do what we can do without each other as a 9 and 10. And like Lenny just said then, it's not just the 80 minutes at weekend, it's the whole week. As a 9 and 10, you've got to drive the team, you've got to make sure the team's ready tactically, make sure the team's ready emotionally, you've got to do it in training, you've got to do it in meetings, and it's like, it's a combination. Like, so that does help the relationship, because you need to be you need to be so aligned and together to do that. But having said that, I do think if I was a completely different position, would have got on. Like, we're very like in terms of like the stuff we talk about and find funny, and the stuff we like we're doing off the field, and the things we find important and value off the field are very similar anyway. So, but yeah, like a 9 and 10 for me is you've ideally, if you've got a brilliant relationship off it, it can only help it on it.
It's a bit like you and Montoya.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It like in
You're
terms of like
mates.
front row, but like I think of the people I've got on really well with in my like career, and I say my closest mates probably like hookers, loose heads, and it's like partly because I think you probably you're drawn to that position because of a certain. Because you're an idiot, but there's certain like skill set and stuff, and like skill set, bending over and pushing, eating. There's a certain skill set there, but you know you've got to be a bit weird to play in the front row. So like that, there's natural mentality which aligns you, and then you find people probably within that have similar values off the field, like and how you treat each other and all that kind of stuff, and you build that rapport for training together, playing together, and respect because you're like. You're putting it in, you're fucking working hard, I'll do the same, and that's how you build it. And I guess 9 and 10 probably, if you go back to the start, there's a reason you play 9, there's a reason you play 10, and the way you play the game connects you on a level, and then, you know, after that you end up respecting each other because of what you can do, how you play, how you lead it. There's bits you mirror on each other, you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to think of, like, that's how I, in my head, I asked the question, but then I'm trying to relate it to my own career in life, and you kind of, you know what I mean? You're sort of drawn together in it, but you get more out of each other because of the respect you have for each other and how you can push each other.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Coley. Exactly right. And you know, we obviously started off Leicester together early, and then George went to Bath, then he came back, and now at Sale. But you know, like if he'd never come to Leicester, like George says, I still believe we'd have got on very, very well. Like obviously we spent so much time together now because of club and country, but yeah, I think we'd naturally been.
So taking your relationship apart, if you've obviously played with other 9s, 10s, do you, how do I put it? Have you had to force relate? Is there anyone, not saying I don't want to name names, but like that natural relationship you say you've got to come naturally. I guess there are other relationships and you've played with 10s and stuff that you've got on with, maybe not as well as George, and George you've played with 9s you've got on with. Is there any you've had to sort of force, or is there any players you played? You don't have to name names, but if there are any players you've gone like, I respect you, but you're a dickhead?
Yeah, I mean, I'll never name Freddie Burns, but but he's no, he. Like, I think the thing is you've got. I'm only messing around, Fred. I think what is difficult, and I find difficult, or I found difficult, is when you've got such a good synergy and a relationship with that 10. Whoever, and I think everyone will always have a partnership that they've played with in their career. And that's the partnership they treasure. And that is mine, and that's mine with George. I have that, right? And it's then very hard to kind of, anything you try and build on and I mean this in a nice way, will always probably fall short of that in terms of that synergy and understanding, because it's so unique, because I do feel like he got the best out of me and I knew him on such a level. So I've still played with amazing 10s. Like, I've still played with Owen, played with Marcus, played with obviously Polly at the club, played with, you know, Burnsy. He was a really good 10. Well, we take the piss out of him, but he was. And even like Tamur played 10 as well, like Matt Tamur. But so my point being is, but to have the relationship that myself and George had, like, yes, I've had good ones and great ones with them, but I just don't think he'll ever be on that level. And that's, I don't know if I'm even.
No, that's normal. I
think it's normal. I just don't think you know, you'll have a certain front row that you've scrummed with Coley, where you may get on with, but like, will anyone come close? Like, you could have your dream hooker and loosehead you've never played with, and you think it's going to be amazing, right?
Yeah.
But it may not actually be as good as.
Do you think, right, that your friendship has been like, or relationship, like sometimes seen as a threat by other players in the squad, maybe around 9, 10, that area, in either at Leicester or whatever? Because I think sometimes when I'm, say, scrummaging, if I've got like Marla alongside me, or your brother or Montoya, whoever it is, like playing alongside me, it's kind of like if someone swaps out, then they almost feel like I don't want them there. You know what I mean? Then it's like, no, I'm quite happy working with you. We'll work together. But it's like, it's almost like you have to work on that relationship separately, because it's like you might not be that person, but we still can be really good. You know what I mean? And it's that kind of like...
I think that has happened plenty of times, though. I must, like, the amount of times, maybe you played with Owen, for example, at England, and I was maybe on the bench or whatever, like, me and Lenny played together all that times at club, we played together country, and then, like, there was various times where you and Faz played together, like, massively successfully as well, and, like, still, my feeling towards it was, like, look, I'm still obviously unbelievable mates with Lenny. I was really, really good, and I'm good mates with Faz. So, like, I want that combination to do well as well, because the main thing for us was to go and win. And, like, if I, for example, was on the bench, I'd try and help in any way I can, like, to Len or Faz and say, look, this is probably what I'm seeing off the bench. Like, can we do this? Can we do that? Or whatever. Because ultimately, when you're in the moment, in the game, in the team, like, the driver is that you want to win as a team, and you got to put your ego to a side, whether you're selected or not selected. You're playing with whoever you want to play with or not, and just go, right, our best chance of winning is this. Let's go and do it. So that's the way I felt towards it. I think that happened so many times as well, didn't it, Len? Like, I mean, some of our brilliant England wins was probably, I think, to the Ireland game in the Six Nations in, was it 2019? First game away. You and Faz started that game.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
So, like, it's always a combination, like, it's always a combined effort. You got to sort of put your ego to one side, definitely, when it comes to that.
You know, the fact that me and George played so much club level together, then naturally I have that view that, do you know what I mean? If George didn't ever been at Leicester and I never played with him, would I have the same, like, that synergy to that level? Because you played that, I think there's so much to be said, the amount of rugby you played together and that synergy, and that naturally makes it the combination what it is.
It is time in the seat. It's time in the seat playing with them, like,
together.
For example, I think of this last couple of campaigns, Six Nations World Cup with Mitch. Like, Mitch has been on fire, hasn't he, for Northampton? He's the player he is. He's like full of energy. But that you know, playing with someone like Mitch might be slightly different to what I've been used to. And, like, only time playing with him and understanding and training with him and going through them experiences can I build, like, this, and you try and accelerate it, but try and build this combination and this relationship with him where we're getting the best out of each other and doing the right thing for the team. And it is challenging that, because you go from a certain way of playing at club with a certain 9 and 10, and you go, all of a sudden you got 2 weeks to play in a test match with a different way of playing with different people. And I think that, in terms of from the outside looking in, people probably wouldn't understand that, how difficult that is sometimes. You might not have played with certain people for the last 3 months, and all of a sudden you've got 2 weeks to get up to speed with a different way of playing with that person, and it's like, of course it's going to be clunky sometimes. You just need time in the seat. You need time in the saddle to then go through experiences, play together, and then, like, maybe you see at the end of the Six Nations, the team started to click a little bit. And obviously you don't want it to take that long, do you? But sometimes that's just the case.
Yeah.
And with that, say, we'll talk about, say, you and, say, Mitch playing together, or use Mitch as an example, because you're a senior player, 90-odd caps, been playing a long time. Do you reckon the onus is on you to lead that? I know everyone's different and relationships different to listeners, but, like, you to lead that, going, like, we need to be really good. Because sometimes a young player comes over. I remember when we first came into England squad, it's literally, I'm not going to speak to anyone or boo to goose, I don't want to upset the apple cart. But, like, then a senior player goes, either like Steve Thompson goes, this is what we need to do to be better, to perform.
Yeah.
So do you think as a senior player now, you lead that relationship in regards to, like, right, let's work together. I need the ball here. What do you need out of me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those combinations.
Yeah.
And
just a bit of guidance, direction, definitely. And I'm not saying Mitch needs his hand holding, because he doesn't. But, like, the key to it is to try and make Mitch and not suppress his way of playing, but understanding as a combination that Test match rugby is different. It is so much. It's like worlds apart from Premiership rugby. And there's going to be times in Test match rugby where you need to just have a great understanding of the game to do the right thing at the right time, even if that is against your philosophy of the game or instinct of the game, because that's why it's called a test match. You need this at this point to make sure that we get this result. So, like, I suppose only experience, like, all experience can allow you to be that, going through many experiences to understand, right, this is a moment where the leader or the more senior player needs to just grab hold of this a little bit and direct them, maybe younger and experienced lads, in the right direction.
Yeah, I did it with Marcus a little bit when he first come through. You just feel this responsibility to not suppress his skills, to absolutely let him own it. But equally, if you can take a bit more responsibility off him in any way so he can take the game and be the player he wants to be, you do it, don't you?
Yeah, brilliant.
And also kind of, like you say there, George, it is different to Prem. Like, it's different to Europe. It's bloody hard.
Yeah.
And I guess your role as well is to kind of just make them more aware, of that without remotely sort of suppressing their abilities.
There is 100%. There is things you get away with as a 9 and a 10. Well, anyone actually. Decisions you get away with at Premiership Rugby week in, week out, which would not happen at Test level. And if the listeners listening here now, if I was to say one thing, that the difference between Premiership, even European, to Test match intensity and level of rugby, the jump is enormous. So like, and I'm, when you hear people say, oh, like England should play like this certain team because they're killing it in the Premiership and killing it in Europe, like it could almost be called a different game. It's that different. And Coley, like Lenny, and that's not me exaggerating either. You're playing against the best players in their position, in their country. Every facet of the game is a contest. Every facet. In the air, on the ground, set piece, everything is magnified and 100 times more than what it would be at Premiership level. And you just need to have an appreciation of that sometimes. Like, it is so much different.
Well, I always think, like, say, Premiership level, like, you'll get another opportunity. And I mean that as in, like, if we lose a ball and they pick it up and score, it's all right, because at some point we'll get another opportunity. Test match level, you won't get an opportunity. Yeah. Or you mess up in, like, you have a line out in the opposition 22 and you mess it up, they steal it. Like, Premiership, you're like, at some point we'll get another one. International level, the likelihood is you won't. And that moment's gone. It's not saying you stop playing and go, oh, we'll just lose the game. But every opportunity counts, and you have to maximise, because teams are so good, and that's what I say, I think young players sometimes coming into the squads, which is a wider question, is like, because in the Premiership you get another chance, I can just flick this, I can just do that, I can throw this ball, then it's like, I can't get that back, and the momentum's gone, and I'm not going to get the opportunity back to, you know what I mean? Yeah. So actually it's almost like, we're not being negative about international rugby, it's about almost not losing the game before winning the game. Whereas in the Premiership, it's like, we'll just sling it about and we'll get a shot somewhere. Right?
Your ability to produce consistency, where you're a 8 out of 10 every week and you just get everything right and you're error free and you're absolutely on it.
Takes some doing, mate.
Takes some serious doing, rather than a guy that maybe comes in, gives you a 9.5 out of 10. Wow, he's magnificent. Then you got a 6, then you got a 5, then another 5 out of 10. Then he hits you another 9. You can't do that. No. The times he's at a 5, he's probably cost you the game, especially as halfbacks. Yeah. Like you cannot do that.
Obviously, 9-10 relationship, you talk about how crucial it is. Have you moved clubs to play with someone you know? It's always probably staying at the club, isn't it? Like, when you say you sign your contracts, is it like, actually, I'm going to play with G Ford, I'm going to play with Lenny, like that factors into your mind of the contract, and the fact that we'll get better, we'll play, like, we can take this team further, or I'll take less money. Not that you ever did, but
there's a couple of examples, though, Coley, in my career. So I was at Leicester, played with Len. I went to Bath. Bath tried to sign Lenny, and that was like, that'd have been amazing. Like, for whatever reason, obviously, Lenny stayed at Leicester, but then I left Bath. I was leaving
Nando's
Bath.
Is the reason, mate.
Nando's, yeah. I left Bath, or was leaving Bath, and you go through your decision-making process, which is a variety of things, isn't it? But one of the main reasons is I wanted to go back to play with Lenny at Leicester, because I knew that 9-10 combination, and you, Coley, that 9-10 tight head combination was massive, but it affects, because you want to go somewhere where you want to, it brings the best out of you as a player. You know you're going to be someone who's like-minded, and you've got a philosophy in the game, and you want to drive a team forward, and hopefully that transfers to England as well. So when I left Bath to go to Leicester, that was a big part of my decision-making process, without doubt. I knew that I'd been at Leicester before. I knew the great tradition, the history of the club, and the great lads were there, and the lads I'd be playing with again. And then as soon as that became an option, I was in no doubt that that's where I wanted to. So it does definitely come into consideration.
Yeah, without doubt, because like George alluded to, like I was going to go to Bath. Like, I wanted, and the reason I wanted to go to Bath is one, they were playing great rugby, but I wanted to play with him every week. Like it is a massive lure.
Screw you, Len.
It's hey, worked out, right? He came to me.
Well, I'm just thinking because like, although I might be picking ones out the top of my head, but you look at the great, like we'll say the great, because we'll come on to your best combos of all time. But like, I think of even like, we'll talk about a Stringer and a O'Gara, a Sexton, a Murray. Well, they're actually different, aren't they? They're the combo that played at different clubs. But like, you think some of the best halfback, even like now France, Dupont and Entamac, they played together at club level and country, and it's almost like you're picking a pair to play rather than two individuals. And it's almost like the problem might be, I'm not saying Dupont's a wrong example, it's some of the examples there, but like there's an individual might be better, but actually the pair of 9 and 10, the sum is greater than its parts. If you see what I mean, that actually works better for us than this individual great player and this individual great player who can't mesh.
No, and that was probably my point earlier. Really, it's like I've played with these great 10s. Like I've played with some amazing 10s, but I played with him the most at club level so often that, like you alluded to there, when we go to our top 5, I'd probably say most of who we name play together at club level as well, which allowed them to then be very, very good together, obviously on the international scene, because they've ironed out so many things. Although it's a huge step up, and it absolutely is, but you've just spent so much time together. You haven't got 2 weeks to kind of figure out all those bits. A lot of those things have already been done.
Right. So talking about combos, who would you say your top 5? It's off the top of your head.
Aaron Smith, Dan Carter are definitely in there.
Definitely in there. Agree. They won a couple of World Cups together. Without doubt. They're in the top 5. Smith and Dan Carter. Didn't play together at club level though, but they're in it. I'd say Prime, Genya and Quade Cooper.
Yeah.
They did play together at club and still are out in Japan. Big shout out to Quade and Willie G.
But the Reds weren't they? The Reds won the Super Rugby, Australia.
Great combination. Then I would say Furu Dupree was pretty damn good, wasn't he?
Monet Stein, Furu Dupree.
Would they make the best though? Top 5? I'm not sure. I'm not sure they'd make.
These guys are still playing, but Dupont and Entamac very good.
Yep.
Dupont best player in the world, Entamac.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously,
again,
amazing. And play at Toulouse together, Coley.
There we are. Play together at Toulouse. Then I'll be looking at another who's been another great combination. It needs. I mean, we can go back in the ages, but we don't go too far back, do we?
Murray Sexton.
Not for me, mate.
No, not for you. Murray Sexton.
Gregan Larkham.
Gregan Larkham is legendary.
That's that's probably one of the best of all.
Yeah,
without being, I'm not putting in words in your mouth, but that's got to be like top 2 or 3.
No, it has to. It's like iconic. Obviously, again, played at the Brumbies together. A couple of Super Rugby titles.
Yeah.
Australian legends.
Dawson Wilkinson.
I don't know.
No, you're not in that one.
I think we'll put ourselves in it.
Okay. Number 1.
Yeah, and I think myself and George are going in there in the top 5 because I'm picking my top 5. And it's our pod, and I want us in it. So, there we go.
Fair enough.
And George is part of the pod family. So George, we have made mate. Well done. We've made the top 5.
Very much, mate.
We've made our top 5. Who should we do a couple of special mentions to that didn't make our top 5? Because obviously we got last place. No, you'd have to say obviously the Sexton Murray one is a combination.
Yeah.
You've got
even like Stringer
O'Gara. Like if you want to go obviously that back to that sort
Mike Phillips, Dan Bigger had a couple of successful years.
They did, yeah.
Grand Slams.
That's a great point.
They were tough to play against, weren't they?
They were. I'm trying to think.
They were Ospreys boys, weren't they, both of them?
Yeah.
Before that,
and obviously Stringer and O'Gara were obviously Munster. Like I say, it's a bit of theme here, Collie, is why we alluded to earlier. You know, a lot of these synergies is we've cracked international. If you want to nail it, get your halfbacks playing together. Yeah. Week in, week out. But I'd also say Furu Dupree, he played with Polly a little bit. Andre, would you go Faf and Polly as well? There'd be Faf and
2 World
Andre.
Cups. Can't
2 World Cups.
That.
I mean, you can't argue that. Faf and Andre's got to be in there.
Yeah, they have.
And I'm trying to sort of think beyond that, really.
Freddie Michalak, mate.
I mean, Frederick Michalak was an absolute legend.
He was boom or bust, mate, wasn't he? He was literally, we're winning the game, bring him on, we've lost the game. we're losing the game, bring them on, we'll win the game.
But then you got to think of like, so then it depends how far back we go, because then you're thinking like Carlos Spencer and Mertens and Marshall.
Yeah.
Do you know what, listeners? We love you getting involved. So like,
give it to us.
Give it to us. Give me your top 5. Yeah, Sean Perry and Andy Goad
Are not on that list.
Are not on that list. George, let's talk about like managing last 10 minutes of games. So how you go about that as a halfback, like controlling it, either seeing it out or obviously getting an opportunity to go win it at the death.
Yeah. But like you said there, Len, you probably have 2 options of what you need to do. You're either up and you need to manage the game dependent on what you feel you need to do to manage it. So sometimes most of the times it's let's really control the tempo here. Let's control the structure of the game. You want to structure it up again. You want to not open the game up. You don't want to open the field up if you're winning, because obviously the opposition are chancing their arm a little bit. So you don't want to feed them. So there's a variety of ways of doing it, but you've got opportunities to kick the ball off the field whenever you want to kick the ball off the field. Every kick, if you're going to contest the ball, has got to be shorter rather than longer. So they're in a really difficult position when you turn the ball over. You want to probably not play anything from your own half, anything up to the halfway or even the opposition 10. There's no need. Like, why? They're the guys under pressure to come and try and win the game. So, and then just taking your time and being a bit savvy, really, taking your time in between everything. Like, if the ball does go off the field, you can walk to that set piece. Or if the opposition are playing and they knock the ball on, and you might get the ball, you might get an opportunity to get it and shift it and go and score. But it might be the right thing to go, you know what, we'll take that scrum. We'll put our foot on it, we'll take that scrum, we'll walk to the scrum. Coley will
lens.
Slow down.
It's got a lens that come out.
Coley will spend 5 minutes setting the scrum.
I probably won't be on the field, but it'll be fine.
Yeah. And just really control the tempo and structure of that game in that moment. And like, your bench has got a massive role within that. They've been sat there for 50, 60 minutes seeing the game unfold, but they need to have such a clear picture when they come on of what their job is to make the game like that. And we need to give them direction to do it, which again it can be difficult as a bench player, that, because sometimes you want to come on and you want to show what you can do, you want to impress, but the state of the game and what the team need might be something a little bit different. So that's where your team first mindset and attitude's got to come in. So, and then the other side of the coin is you're down, and you need your bench to come on, and you need them to make an impact and up tempo, but still, I don't think it's playing everything from your own try line. Still, I think it's still making good decisions. It's trying to get the ball back in situations which gives you an opportunity to go and score points. So you wanna up tempo, of course you do, but you still want to make sure you're playing obviously rugby in the right area. You want to kick at the right time still, knowing that they might kick it out and you get a really good opportunity for set piece in their half, or they kick a poor kick back and you counter attacking. So like the situations can be different. I mean, if you take Ireland for example in the Six Nations where we were down, they scored that try quite close to the end and we had to go and chase the game. So Marcus was on the field at the time and he was probably thinking of, right, this is the kickoff we need. This is a kickoff we need so that we get the ball back in the opposition half to try and build pressure and maybe get a penalty to kick 3 or whatever. But obviously it turns out that we build pressure, we kick the ball to the corner, we're in the 22 and he kicks a brilliant drop goal. Like that, in terms of going winning the game, the urgency, the intensity, the plan of what you need to do was amazing. Whereas if you put yourselves maybe in Ireland shoes, all they're thinking is, there's 5-6 minutes left here. We just need to get out of our own half. Let's kick the ball off the field. We'll walk. Make sure our set piece D is unbelievable. Numbers on feet. Green rucks. Nobody go for the ruck. All these little messages of, we'll get the ball back. We'll get the ball back. And then we'll kick the ball as long as we can into the England half and make them try and win it from their own try line. So it's whatever the situation is. But there is sort of little messages that you need to implement either side of it.
There is. I mean, that Ireland game, I did analysis of that, and there was a lot of chat about whether Colin Murray should have gone another ruck, whether he should have kicked it off, which he did, and they went to structure. Then England did a strike. They tried to catch tackle. James Lowe joined that catch tackle, which then gave space to bend them on the edge. Listen to it, listeners. Honestly, it's a good episode. Very insightful.
You got all the answers.
Yeah, I have got all the answers. I actually have. But there's generally loads of examples. When you think about so when that mad game at Twickenham when we drew with Scotland, you scored at the death, right? So there's an example there where you're chasing the game. We talk about when we drew with New Zealand in 2023 autumn and England came back, right? And I think it was 26 all or something like that. And New Zealand kicked off and we expect them to go long because we're thinking their mindset is it's drawing. They'll kick long thinking trap us in a corner, go for a jackal, like will we kick off, what we do? They went down the middle. We didn't even think of that. Like we didn't think that they would do that. So they had like the balls to go, actually, we're going to go win it.
Yeah.
And we were probably thinking like, let's get it and then just assess after that. They went down the middle. We weren't expecting it. We lost so many bodies to that first ruck, so then we couldn't attack. We talk about the famous game where Elliot Daly scores in the corner against Wales and Jonathan Davis, he misses touch because Carl Sinkler puts kick pressure on him. He kicks that off. That goes to structured game.
Yeah.
Like my point being is whether you are trying to close a game out or you're trying to win it, there's going to be opportunities for you to lose it or for you to win it. Yeah. And you don't know when they come, but I can guarantee you whether there's 3 minutes left, 1 minute left, there is going to be a play in that scenario where you have to be red hot, where you have to be all in. And games, we've been a part of games that have been won, lost or drawn on the back of the finest of margins.
Yeah, one moment.
And I think that's where, again, people won't understand. You have to prep for that and you have to embrace those moments.
You do, yeah, because you don't know what it's going to be. That you don't know what moment is going to be the moment that either wins you the game or costs you the game. So therefore, if you don't know when that moment's going to be, you need to be ready in every moment and you need to be red hot in every moment. And the team that does that better than the opposition in these big test matches will win the game. And usually it is in the last 20 minutes. Usually it is like if that's the opposition you're playing against and you know that you're going to have to go the full 80 to win it, then them game-defining moments usually. And it's funny, I was just thinking as you were saying then, Len, but like if you're down and the bench come on and they inject a bit of tempo and intensity and you start moving the ball a bit more and like you might take a few risks here and there. And then you read the analysis after the game and everyone goes, oh, that's the way England should play the whole 80 minutes. Why are England not doing that for the whole 80? And it's like, you can't be that for the whole 80 minutes. This is why it's called a test match. It's a test. You've got to be able to play in a couple of ways where you can turn it on at the right times, but you can manage it at the right times. You got to give respect to the opposition. They're a good team as well. Like, you're not just going to go out there and blow someone apart and run it from everywhere for 80 minutes. It's just not the reality. So the team that picks and chooses what they need to do at that time, whether that is slow the game down and get a bit of structure on it, might be for 5-10 minutes, just to see that sort of purple patch that the opposition might be having, just to tide it over, to then thinking, right, we'll build it, right, here we go, we're going to up tempo again a little bit now. And just the ebbs and flows of a test match like that, it's not one or the other. It's always, Len, you played how many? 125? Have you played 125?
127.
Sorry, man, that was disrespectful. 127.
Yeah. Too short.
But you can feel it, can't
Let's
you?
include my lines.
The amount of conversations, the amount of conversation we had on the field said, Len, for the next 10 minutes, mate, we just need to really structure this game up.
Yeah.
Or for the next 10 minutes, Lenny, next time you get a penalty, quick tap, go.
Yeah.
We need a bit of tempo in this, and it's you don't know until you're in the moment.
No, you don't.
And that's what separates probably the good players from that.
I think what people think as well is like when the game is on the line, your back end of the game is how much a coach influences it, or probably throughout the game how much they influence. And I think people be surprised by not a lot, to be honest with you, when messages come on.
There's always a lot of like when the camera flicks to like the coaches in the box. There's always, you can often see some coaches, I guess, are talking away. You know what I mean, chatting away, blah, 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 or on the mic and stuff, and you get the impression that they're almost running it. But a lot of that conversation is just happening amongst the coaches, and it's very little gets down to the field. Or when it does get down to the field, sometimes, I say with senior players, it's already been fixed.
Yeah, the messages that come on the field. I think the brilliant thing for coaches is they can see what we can't on the field. So they're up in the stands, they can see the whole game. They've got their laptops, they can watch it back, they can see it brilliant. Like that is so helpful. But we can feel what they can't, in terms of the feel of the game and like where the state of our own team is, where the state of the opposition team is, so it's like always a combination of both, I think, that comes into it. The only sort of bugbear of mine would be, and this has happened throughout all my career, is where like you might be struggling in a game, really struggling, and you might end up losing the game, and you don't potentially get any or much help in terms of messages or what we need to do there and then in the moment. But then we'll come in on a Monday morning and everyone will have the answer to what we should have done. Everybody. And and I'm thinking, well, what use is that? I needed it 48 hours ago and about 3:30 in the middle of the first half. That's when I needed it, because we don't know all the answers in the middle of the field, do we? Like, we try and do our best, but like, then they have the whole of Sunday to watch the game back 3 or 4 times, and they get all the stats and the evidence, and they probably ring people up and think, what do you think to the game? And then everyone accumulates a story of how the game went and what the solutions and answers were to it. And again, I'm thinking, well, let's all right, we'll learn the lesson, but we needed this in the middle of the game. And that's what's defined the best coaches for me, is they don't wait till the Monday morning. They don't wait till they've watched the game back 4 times. And they've got all the stats and evidence through that suggests that we should have done this or should have done that. They actually give us something in the moment to help us that can turn the game to make sure we go and win it. And I think from the elite coaches to the rest, that's probably the biggest difference I noticed, because anyone can do that. Like on a Sunday, you go and read the newspaper and read the report, and then you go on social media and all of a sudden you accumulate this story of what's happened and the solutions. You come in Monday morning and like you go into a meeting and get bombarded. Why didn't we do this? We should have done this. This wasn't good enough. And it's like, well, thanks, we'll learn the lesson now, of course we will, but we could have done with that in the middle of the game, sort of thing.
No, I totally agree. And I think, like you say, the elite ones give you the information that is solution-based, really quick, and totally like tangible, achievable.
There and then.
Yeah. This is what needed, or this is what's happening. Do this.
Yeah.
Or they're on top here. To nullify that, this needs to do that. Yeah. Boom. Right. Go do it.
Some of it as well for, I think, coaches is, they're probably the best ones if you're already given you a solution beforehand, so you can change. But it's also the emotion. Like, they can come in and go, like, you might be down the dumps, but they can go, say at half time, it's probably messaging's a bit different to obviously on field messaging, but like actually doing really well. Like, it's an arm wrestle, but we'll break them down. You know, it's that emotional side of things that, and what they can sort of see is like, or actually, you've beaten a team by 50 points and you think, well, we smashed this, and they come in and goes, guys, this is rubbish. Like, you're not doing this, and they just keep you grounded on task. And I think that's some of the best coach I've had, is to be able to see like Eddie and Steve be able to come in and like almost do the opposite to what you think. You think you're going to get absolute bollocking. Actually, it's no, do this right. You know what I mean? And that's the sort of coaching messaging. It's different to on field, but as a player, I was probably appreciated rather than just a commentary. You come in at half time and like a commentary of the game, or if we're better, if we win more collisions and run over them and tip the ball and just be better at rugby, just be better at rugby and you'll score points. It's
simple,
like, cool. I'm not better at rugby, so I can't. So like, you know what I mean? It's at that level of stuff. So no, it's like coaches, I love it as well when sometimes you get screenshots. I mean, I don't touch the ball, so it's not really mine, but it's like a Monday morning, space here. It's like, cool. Yeah, there is. But there's space there because...
we've got no one there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's like... They're not defending anyone because there's no attacker within 50 metres. So there's all the space in behind, space here. Why don't you see it? It's like, why don't you fucking tell us at the time there's space there then?
Half times, that's fascinating, half time as well, isn't it? Because that is actually such a genuine time to reset, to actually like calm down, understand what's gone on in the first half, and more importantly, right, these are the simple things we need to do now going forward. And the amount of half times I've been in, which has just been an absolute chaotic situation. Everyone comes in and there's conversations going on everywhere. We need to do this, attack, defence, kicking game, set beat, like, and then before you know it, you run back out for half time. You think, whoa, what's just gone on there? Like, we are no clearer on what we need to do. We've spoken about everything that commentary. We've commentated on the first half, and it's like, what a wasted opportunity! Absolutely wasted opportunity that is. At half time, where you can be like, right, this is what's happened. We could talk about everything, but the most important thing now is this, 1 or 2 things. Let's go and do it. But it's mad how often that doesn't happen.
Few people can nail half time. Yeah. You've got to leave half time with, again, like what, and this is the thing. It's like coaches have to, and players, like, prioritize what's actually important. What's important to their individual thing. Do the team need to hear it? Like, do the team need to know about set piece as such? Probably not. Like, that's an individual forwards thing. Like, do they need to know about strikes, the first strike of the second half? Yes, they probably do, in terms of the whole team to know. But do they need to know about the kicking game? Not necessarily. Like, it's where do you prioritise what is the most important thing the team needs, rather than what's the most important thing like units need or individuals need, and where you prioritise them. And I think coaches also have to understand, it's like, they probably want to get their point across. Like, what do I need to do in D? Well, actually, maybe...
Whereas I'm not coaching unless I give the boys as much information of what I've seen. Actually, like, it's probably the wrong way of coaching, because actually, like, I've seen the breakdown, I've seen the carry, I've seen the defensive backfield, I've seen this, I've seen that. It's like, at halftime, boys are still adrenaline. Are you not listening, really? It's like, tell me what... Simplify the message as quick, easy as possible, and say the 2 or 3 things that we need at max.
Steve's brilliant, for example, because he'll just go for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll leave the change rooms for the next 10 minutes, lads. This is what we're going after, because he knows after the next 10 minutes the bench is coming on anyway. Then he'll go and give the bench a message of what they. But he'll probably then decide, after, depending on how that 10 minutes goes.
He'll then have a better picture of what needs next. Yeah.
But he'll actually say, right, lads, we'll prioritise. Like, this is the next 10 minutes. Let's do this. Let's see where we're at after this. And then we'll go, right, well, for the next 10 minutes, we might need to do, like, do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you brought the game second half out into 4 10 minutes instead of a 40-minute period. Like, how many times in the week do you speak about the first 20 minutes of the game? Loads. We do anyway. We've got to get the first 20 right. We've got to get it right. It's a test match, and we've got to be disciplined. We've got to be accurate. We've got to be physical. And then the 21st minute comes of the game, and it's like, well, we've got another 19 minutes left here, but all we've done is spoken about the first 20 minutes. So then maybe that second quarter, because you haven't put as much attention to it, doesn't seem to be, I don't know, maybe as well rehearsed, as well trained, maybe made out to be not as important as the first 20. And you'll probably see, like, you come out the blocks first 20, you get to that 20-minute point, and you might have a bit of a lull then for that next 20. Which again, but I've been thinking about that for, like, yeah, you got the start of the game's huge, don't get me wrong, but it's not just the start. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you get the first 10, 15 minutes right, but then you need to go probably the next 10 minutes, and the next 10 minutes. And I'm guilty of it, we just think, right, lads, first 20 minutes, massive. Massive.
We've had it sort of times when it's been inconsistent, and you need an 80-minute performance, so like, everyone needs to be on it for 80 minutes, but you're like, 80 minutes is a long time in the context. Rugby, it's like, let's worry about the next minute or the next, you know what I mean? Like, the next 2 minutes. Let's just get that right. And then you block it all together and you get to your 80 minutes. But it's like, you say, sometimes it's either we'll focus on the first 20 or we need a full 80-minute performance. And you're like, yeah, but how do we get there? And like, how do you actually manage that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's easy going 80 minutes, but then you forget about everything else happens in between. It's, it's when you dive into stuff, I say, especially I think you get to a certain level, then you start asking questions of what your mission is, what you're doing, what you think, and then like you almost learn a lot. And not say you end up switching off to the wrong messages, different thing, but like switching off to the messages that sometimes come out because you know better in some regards.
Yeah, it must be like, I've never been in a position of being a coach, but it must be the balancing act of it all. You got the emotion and the feeling, and you're sat in the stands and you're not on the field. Like, it must be like unbelievably tricky. It must be like where to prioritise and what message to give to the team. But I suppose that's the intriguing part of it all. Like, the best managers in football who seem to get the most out of their players, and week in, week out, is probably what sets them apart a little bit, isn't it? So it's interesting. It's
the only time, like, most of the week, the head coach can control pretty much everything, but they can't for that bit.
Yeah.
Like, they actually can't. And it's actually a battle of the how can I control and emotions and tone of voice and what I'm saying. Am I being clear? Because they aren't in control, really. No. Like, it's over to us.
Yeah, 15 individuals on a field. So, who'd be a coach?
Well, George, thank you again. That's draws the end of our third episode together. It's been, again, phenomenal, really enjoyable. Have you enjoyed it, George?
I've loved it, yeah. Thanks for having me again, lads.
Well, you're welcome back anytime, George.
Anytime. I like having a chat. It's brilliant, isn't it? We get carried away at times, but love it.